stamps and a work permit for Nepal, and there's Singapore and Hong Kong, Bangkok, Hong Kong again.
This is where you, as an 8-year-old, were the perfectly behaved child.
Yes.
No question.
In this setting, perfectly behaved is kind of a spectrum.
I see. If you don't kill anybody or yourself, you're
That's
within
right.
That's
if nobody gets hurt, some minor fires, a little bit of damage, but if there are no casualties, it's good.
Do you call it Fort Dykes, or is that just me?
That's you.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about what life was like when little Willie was running up and down here.
Life in this place was, as far as I'm concerned, was pretty much perfect. We had a couple of ponies. We had as much of the world as any little child needs to wander in and play in, and not bother another living soul, and not run into another living soul. And as a little kid that lived in my own imagination a lot, that was just right for me. Actually, we had 3 Chincoteague ponies. They were about half trained, and so were we. And we didn't use saddles. We rode them bareback, and it was a lot of fun.
That sounds idyllic. It really does.
We just go out and grab a pony and put a bridle on them and take off and ride around for a while. My dad farmed the place himself for a number of years, and then we rented the land. My dad was a state cop for 37 years.
Wow.
Started out as a basic trooper and ended up as a lieutenant colonel. Mm-hmm. He was a number 3 man in the state police when he retired. So when he was a full-time cop when he was farming this land all by himself. He was an amazing guy. He was a strange dude too. I never heard him curse as long as I knew him, for 65 years, probably 70 years. Never said even a hell or a damn.
That's just like you.
Well, I wanted to go in the aviation division because by that time I had a fairly strong helicopter background, and I had credentials, and I went to the police academy, graduated number 1 in the class, and was president of the class. So I had to make the old man, or at least make his efforts worthwhile.
You mentioned that you had an extensive helicopter background.
Yes.
Where did you get that from?
Well, I learned to fly in the Army, and flew for 3 years in the Army with a year and a half in Vietnam. And then I flew forest fires, and I flew in as a commercial pilot in South Asia and in different places. And so actually I was in Kathmandu, and I had contracted hepatitis. We had a program that we were examining children all over the country of Nepal. We had a team with us that had a little table. They were taking blood samples and measuring children. And we lived out, we did 260 some villages in the whole of Nepal, which meant we spent a lot of time out in the field, which meant we ate on the local economy a lot. And I contracted hepatitis A, and very nearly died. And actually it was after I didn't die, it was fairly entertaining. My urine was like black coffee, and my stool was as white as snow.
What a beautiful thing.
It was a little wild, but anyway, I thought I'm going to have to get a real job. So and this the manager of the outfit I was working for. He was from Singapore. And he and I were sitting out on my balcony. He was trying to talk me into staying in Kathmandu. And a crow flying overhead. I was in a bathrobe with bare legs. A crow flying overhead pooped, and it landed right on my shins. The ugliest poop you ever saw in your life. And I thought, no, I'm going home.
It took that little message.
So anyway, so I needed, I did need a steady job, and the Maryland State Police had a crackerjack aviation operation. I mean, at that time, I'd seen a few, and they were one of the best I'd seen. So I wanted to fly for them, and it was a steady job. But at that time, all the pilots were sworn officers, so you had to go through the police academy and spend a little time on the road before you went to the aviation division. That's how I got to be a cop for a while.
Mm-hmm. Overall experience of the war and when you came back home.
The sort of the overwhelming feeling I had when I came back home, and for the next almost 10 years, was of being an alien, being a stranger in a strange land. That I was disconnected from the society that was around me, and that I was irretrievably different. And that was it's something you can get used to after a while, but it's always a pain, you know, to feel like you're just an alien in a society.
Why?
Well, because when we were all in Vietnam undergoing this extremely intense experience, people back here were just living real life, just everyday life. Now, not to say that it wasn't tragic and intense for people, but in a general sense, the difference in experience just couldn't be bridged. Now, during World War II, people at home everybody felt like they had some involvement. They had fewer cups of coffee and drove their car around fewer miles and all that at the very least. Some of them worked hard in defense industries and whatnot, but as far as the Vietnam era, life went on as usual. And so you come back from there, and I remember in Oregon one time, good heavens, that was in '73. I was in a bar one night, and I just broke down, because these people are just living everyday life. I mean, they're not affected. They're not changed in the slightest by anything that went on in the last 5 years. And I felt so apart. Like I say, I just lost it for a little while. Had to go get it back because I had to fly the next day. But no, I was working for a contractor out of Marana, Arizona, on a forest fire. It was a forest fire contract in Oregon. And I worked a couple of years on forest fire contracts with this outfit in Washington and Oregon, which is most beautiful country this United States has to offer.
Is that right?
Alaska has some real extremes, but this Washington and Oregon are pretty.
Mm-hmm.
And we were doing forest fires, and that was exciting enough that
sure,
kind of take your mind off of just about anything else.
You're fighting something.
Yeah,
And that's what you were trained to do.
Yeah, and it was, you could, it's like, it was, I hate to say this, but it was sort of like teasing the tiger. You know, at that time, for a while, you figured you might have to wrestle with the tiger. But in Vietnam, this was teasing the tiger. You know, the tiger's in the cage, you know, his claws are that long. And so you give him an extra 1.5 feet, and you're still teasing the tiger, which there's chances are he's not going to get you, unless you trip or you're stupid.
What is the tiger?
Death.
Oh, so you're up there and you're still at the same thing of trying to kill yourself.
Well, that's my conclusion. That it could be described, I guess, in a lot of different ways by a more professional sort of observation. But that's basically the way I had it figured.
Mm-hmm.
You could come as close as you wanted,
Mm-hmm.
but girls are pretty, whiskey's good, and steak is juicy. So you don't want to just throw it away. Give it up.
Right.
Yeah, throwing it away would be stupid.
You knew people well who did throw it away, didn't you?
Yes. And everybody I talked to that was in my circle of friends and the circle of people that I associated with, and Vietnam veterans, had mentioned in passing at one time or another they had looked down the barrel of a gun. And sometimes it's just like it was an old friend. Like if it gets bad, there you are. If it gets too bad, got you right there.
Easy enough to take care of that problem.
Yeah. If it
put a stop to it.
There's a solution there for all of this.
Okay.
But actually, I don't know many, if any, that actually did it in that way. I know a bunch of the boys that tease the tiger a little bit too close in the flying business, and they ended up dead. But
that ends up as an accident.
Yes,
but it's not.
Well, yes, it is. Nobody really intends for it to end that way. But sometimes, like I say, you just tease a tiger, you're just a little too close, or you figure you got at least a foot to play with, and you stumble on a root. We were expected to, our job was to try to save lives of people on the ground, and you can't waffle at that. You can't seriously waffle at that. That's just that's where the red line lies. And so you had to hang your tail out as much as you ever did, but we were hampered by the rules from doing it in the way that's most effective. So you can save those people's lives, but don't fire too many rockets. And you're going to have to shoot really close to those people down there, but you can't go below 1,000 feet. You know, there's one thing that's captured in my mind is a fellow went out on a fire mission one day, and this fellow was in a huge bomb crater. The guy I was talking to on the radio, he was in this huge bomb crater that was about half full of water. And he was talking about needing some fire real close to his position. And he said, okay, get set up and I'll throw a smoke. And when the smoke goes off, shoot it. So how far can you throw a smoke grenade? And he wanted a pair of 10-pound warhead folding fin aerial rockets put right on that smoke. So from how far away can you do that? Me personally, I could only do that from about maybe 100 meters at the most. So I had to be down maybe 150, 200 feet. And we're not supposed to go below 1,000 feet on a rocket run. So I remember doing that. Well, the wild thing about Vietnam was I had my navigational radio tuned to AFVN, and I was listening to rock and roll. Mm-hmm. And that was, we had some second generation Cobras that had air conditioning in them. So I had my jungle fatigue sleeves rolled up, and I'm listening to rock and roll in an air-conditioned aircraft, and when I'm getting all set up down there, I can see this guy in this bomb crater. I can see the sweat rolling down on his face, and he throws this grenade and punch off about maybe 4 pair on that grenade and roll over, and I can see him right down that's close enough to see, like I say, the sweat rolling down on his face. And that was the game we were supposed to play, and that was a game that we played. But it was expensive. Aircraft got shot up, rockets got fired, and so the reason for the rules to change was this pecuniary consideration, but they wanted us to do the same job. So I'm thinking, this doesn't make sense.
Right.
Doesn't make any sense at all.
Right.
But there you go. By then I had about 2 months left in country. And so I spent the last 2 months knowing that it was all just hogwash, the whole thing. And that's kind of hard to, when you talk about PTSD, that's you're a computer man, and you know that if you overload a computer, it crashes.
Right.
And that's what happens with with being in a situation like that. You get overloaded with all this. There are so much information coming in from so many places, and it's contradictory information a lot of times, and it's all coming in really intensely in huge volumes, and it causes main computer to crash sometimes.
Sure.
Sometimes for short times, sometimes forever.
The people know you because of your work at WBOC. How did that come about?
Completely by accident. I was working for an outfit down at Wallops Island, and a contract pilot down at Wallops Island, and that contract ended, and I was faced with either learning a trade or leaving this place. And at the very worst part of that ordeal, I saw on this helicopter website they were looking for a helicopter pilot in Salisbury, Maryland.
Really?
So long story short, I get hired, and I was supposed to just be a helicopter pilot. And then mission creep set in. First, did a little. The news director would ask me to go out and find something cool for the 6. What's cool? Where do you find it?
Yeah.
So anyway, and then that went on, and then as the job deepened, I had to start researching, because if you say something that is not true on television on the lower shore, you'll get hate mail, hate calls.
Hate calls are better. Yeah.
Yes, and so I had to use a NAB center and SU and do everything, including calling up the postmaster in the village and seeing what the story was. And so I found out more about the Delmarva than I had ever known, and it ended up fascinating me. And so that you can find like the story of a name of a town, you can find at least 5 or 6 stories that tell you how that came about.
Different stories.
And so I had to run them all down and find out which ones were mainly true and whatnot. And that process really sort of deepened my connection to this place. And so that I wanted to show everybody that how cool this place really was.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that came across because I was really interested in finding out more and interested in showing people, and that and it worked out for everybody, I think, a little bit.
Absolutely.
And to be able to see the place, it not just historically and socially, but geopolitically too. See the lay of the land, how the rivers flow and whatnot. I got to know this place as the way I wanted to know it,
Mm-hmm.
as how it started and how it ended, and so far.
Would it be all right if Delmarva knew how you decompressed?
I don't know. Probably not the whole story.
Just a rough outline of how you got the pressure off.
Well, it was late at night, usually when the roads were fairly empty, and I was drunk. I had this old car with a big engine, and would get out and put the pedal to the floorboard and hold it there as hard as I could, and just go, as with no particular no destination in mind, just the feeling of it, the release of it, whatever.
To me, it's like you were kind of simulating the chopper.
Well,
The risk, the speed.
Recapturing that feeling, that feeling is not entirely pleasant. It's not like a drug rush or anything like that. It's really intense. But there may have been something like that in it, trying to re-explore it or recapture it.
The experience itself.
Yeah, and it was empty at the end. It didn't really satisfy anything except the urge to find out if it was still there or if it was valid.
Mm-hmm.
And
how long did that go on?
that went on for 10 years.
Oh my God!
I'm telling you, it was. Well, I'm a slow learner, and I was by myself a lot. So people that had a big support network and a lot of friends and a real life of some kind to live didn't need that long to find that out. But it took me a long time.
Now you were, would you say, rescued from that state by love?
Oh my God, I've never been so captivated. I've started to say captured, but that has a little pejorative.
It is the truth.
Swing to it, but yeah, that was that was the strongest experience. So that was a much stronger experience at the time.
that feeling of knowing exactly what I wanted, and the urge to find the energy and whatever it took to make it happen.
And what were you trying to make happen?
Oh, well, I wanted to be with this woman. It was strange.
And she's a Gordy girl, as I understand.
She is. And Gordy girls are pretty, and they're smart, and they're mean as hell. If you had the temerity to smack a Gordy girl, she would gut you with a dull putty knife. So there's that element of danger there too, you know. That worked into it.
She can
really
take it.
well. Yeah.
But we should explain what a Gordy girl is.
Oh, well, they're the Gordy family is an established family in this area here. Her dad was a carpenter, and they lived in Snow Hill. She had two brothers. Her oldest brother was killed in Vietnam, and his brother, a little bit younger, was in the service and was killed in an auto accident in the United States. So she lost both of her brothers. So she knew a little bit about sadness and craziness. So I didn't have to,
Explain that.
didn't have to mask it or didn't have to explain it. But the rest of it was a challenge.
Would it be a fair statement that she rescued you from yourself?
She provided a reason for me to change. There's a line from a movie, the old, Jack Nicholson. I kind of like old Jack Nicholson. He said, he tells this woman he's a messed up dude. And all he can think of to say to her is, "You make me want to be a better man."
When we talked before, there was something you forgot to tell me about.
Yes.
What was that?
I forgot to tell you about the hospital job I had down in North Carolina at East Care, down in Greenville, North Carolina. And it was not one of the longer jobs I had, but it was probably the most satisfying helicopter work that I did in 44 years. So that was an opportunity to set up a helicopter program the way I thought it ought to work, and that was stressful, but it was satisfying. And the work, the actual job requirements were the absolute best in the helicopter business. Because a lot of the time we were picking up people at accident scenes on the highway or on a farm or something like that. So as a helicopter pilot, on every second or third flight, you get to save somebody's broken child. The farther away I got, the better I liked it, but the more I wanted to be home. The more I thought about home finally. And the more I listened to songs that had home in them and all this kind of thing. So the reason for going out and looking around for so intensely for such a long time is to try to learn something. And I've been accused of being hard-headed. I know I'm a slow learner, so I didn't learn anything new. But I learned all the old lessons really well. And I learned them by doing it wrong over and over again. And like I say, all the old lessons, like save time and money, do it right. That's one of the ones you need to repeat to yourself over and over, no matter what you start doing. And if you want to get respect, give respect. That's really important in dealing with people and with anybody. And you have to look at people the way God looks at them, and that's hard because, and it's not for some high-blown altruistic reason. It's because you never know who you're going to need. And one of the most useful things that I learned is that, and this takes a long time and a lot of repetition to really learn, is that good times follow bad times and bad times follow good times. And it frustrates Rhonda some, but I've seen it happen often enough that I know that it's true, because I get, when times are really good, I start getting a little depressed because I know that bad times are probably coming. Mm-hmm. And but on the other hand, in the middle of bad times, I start getting a little cheery, because I know no matter how bad it is, good times are coming.